for attending this event, and I think we're the preparation for this is very heavy. Is it's really we just don't just really just prepared for something, but it's really had a very long preparation for this one, and I want to commend the power community, especially Russ, for organizing this one. All right. So for my topic, this is gonna be light because we're opening the night, and sorry, it's night here in the Philippines. I know it's morning in the other countries, but in APAC region, it's really night and midnight here. So please bear with me, like um some noises, etc. But I just want to welcome you guys in this event. So thank you for attending. So my session is gonna be light. This is for like level 100 folks here. So I of course there are experts here. You're gonna ask me about development, etc. I can answer that, but I just want to give this this opportunity for those who's trying to explore Business Central, or something like moving from QuickBooks or Zero or other accounting system, and then they want to grow their business. All right. So just an introduction. So I'm Paul Soliman. So I'm an MVP here in the Philippines. So I'm the first MVP. All right. That got an award here in the Philippines. So thank you, Microsoft, for that. For business application, of course. So I'm the first Filipino who got an award for business applications, and I'm a co-founder and the CEO of Hacktiv Collab Inc. and the CTO of Raven Global Venture. So I've been doing NAV or Dynamics Business Central for for like around 8 to 10 years already. Then shifted to becoming an entrepreneur to continue the passion and the business for the community, and giving jobs, of course, for Filipino to really have a career in business application, not only Business Central, but of course customer engagement, supply chain and FCM, etc. So yeah, so without further ado, let me start my presentation. Okay. All right. So the goal of this presentation is for us to have, an easy and quick implementation and less time to go live. So in a way, as I always saying, it's always foundational. It's always by principle that we need to, to understand how Business Central works in a way that our customer will be happy in terms of, cost of the project, and at the same time, the quality of the project. And I believe there's a huge impact, all right, in terms of, creating, or not creating, but establishing the master data of your customers. This is a very important fact that sometimes other consultants will just neglect it and go to the development, or go to the like a resources kind of thing, go to the jobs without really understanding what really is the basic master data for Business Central, or if you're old school here, Navision, Nav 5.0, etc. It's still the foundational aspect of implementing an ERP system, and we'll start with the master data. Okay. I just I just want this to be cool, and not some sort of like a classroom type of thing, a presentation. But you can ask questions later on, or even chat it now. So I just want to be cool. I mean, ERP is cool. Accounting is cool. It's not really like of course CRM is very cool, but those functional consultants here or developer, you're doing a great job. Continue what you're doing, and I think it's gonna be cooler later because technology is changing a lot. Even
Paul, you're muted. You're muted.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Hi,
Yeah.
yes, Paul, we can hear you. Unfortunately, there was someone who had their microphone. Patel, I'm just going to mute you now because you have your microphone on and it's making a noise.
Okay.
So please, final reminder, please make sure your microphone is muted. Otherwise, we may have to, obviously.
Yeah.
So again, guys, apologize, Paul. So back to you, Paul.
Okay. So did you hear what I said, Ras, from my previous slide or previous, introduction?
I believe you might need to do. We lost you for the last minute,
Okay.
unfortunately. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So again, the goal of this session is for us really have an understanding of Business Central as a system that is quick to implement, no BS. In a way, it's really if we're talking about Zero or QuickBooks, etc. Business Central can really do that job. I mean, it doesn't need to be a partner-driven application. So we're gonna explore that kind of motion in terms of implementing Business Central, especially for us partners, right? In the Microsoft Business Application industry. Okay, so let me go to this. So of course we want to learn what is really business central master data. What are its composition? I call it the MVD. In the Scrum and then the Agile world, we call it an MVP. So a minimum viable product if we launch a product. But I will call this as a MVD, so minimum viable data. For you to go live, so what do you need, right? And the manual fill up and the bulk upload of master data. Again, my session is really about understanding the master data. I'm gonna do some demo a little bit, but I will be posting the package that I've created for a quick implementation. You can just download that or edit that or change that. Of course, it's not on GitHub because it's not really a code. It's just a package, but I think it will really help you if you're like a freelancer or someone who implements Business Central on your own. Okay. All right, so let me start with this. So master data is the building foundation. All right. So when we say a building foundation, it's really, the backbone of all of the implementation. I don't really believe that if you don't understand master data, you can implement Business Central or any other application like CRM, Dynamics 365, Sales, Dynamics 365 customer service, or whatever business applications that you have in mind. If you don't understand the concept of a master data, then I think you're really going to chaos in your implementation. So it's very important to know for us consultants, for us developers. I once a functional consultant before I became an entrepreneur. I once a bit of a developer before I became an entrepreneur. So in a way, if I'm a developer or a functional consultant, if I don't understand the concept of the master data, then I'm missing the point. You can't really finish a project 100% sure. I've done a lot of I think I got 100 plus project already in Business Central or NAV, but the very crucial way, the very crucial part of an implementation is really understanding what is your customer master data, and this is really the foundation. For me, it's very simple. Master data, technically, because again, as I mentioned, Business Central is still a financial system. It's an ERP. Of course, the concept of an ERP was there since 90s, right? The concept of an accounting system was there since 80s. But what we need to understand is Business Central is not only an accounting system, it's not only an ERP system, but it's really a system that can organize, that can manage all the business aspect. And master data is playing a role for that. It's, that's the good thing about presenting live. It's raw. Let me just turn off my Viber. Sorry for that. That's just a commercial, but let me just turn off that. Wait. Sorry for that, guys. So let me close this one. Okay, I'm good. All right. So again, as I mentioned, so the backbone of an implementation of Business Central itself is really master data. So in a way, what we're trying to do here is to understand what is really a master data. Even without going to the system, we need to understand why master data is very important in terms of implementing Business Central or any other ERP system to the customer or to our clients. For me, the very basic, the very central of the master data is chart of accounts. I'm gonna discuss that later. So in a way, there are many there are many tables. If I'm gonna if you're gonna allow me to use that, there are many tables in any other application. We call it the maintenance table. We call that the master data. We call it the setup table. Whatever you want to call that, but in an ERP system or in our ERP setting like Business Central, it's very important to identify which master data is very important, which master data can be set up later, which master data is very crucial on an implementation phase. So for me, the center of a financial system is really chart of accounts. In an old school setting, we always in an accounting system or old school setting, it's really the chart of accounts that is heavy lifting the system, meaning everything that they're gonna be posting will not go to a subsidiary ledger. Later I'm gonna discuss that, but more of like everything is on the my GL, it's on my chart of accounts. So banks, my customers, etc. And the problem with that, if you don't understand the concept of having a subsidiary ledger, if you report your financial statement, your BS, your balance sheet, and also income statement, it will be, so erroneous in terms of checking those things, because technically, what I want to do as as an owner of the business is to just go to my balance sheet and just check the important account. Go to my IS income statement and just check the important account. If I want to be very detailed about it, I just need to go to my customer. I just need to go to my vendor, check my bank, check my inventory, etc. And that is really the importance of having a subsidiary ledger and a general ledger. Right. Let me move forward. Okay. So in my past, career in terms of implementing Business Central, I just need to understand, and teaching this new functional consultants as we know it. I of course teaching the community on how to really organize an implementation. I just identified two types of master data. Number one, it's really the general, which is the general ledger. Of course, the general ledger is the foundation of everything. Without this, technically, in terms of impact for your customer, it's really hard, since it's still an accounting, it's still a financial system. So if we don't understand the concept of a general ledger, then we're up to fail, right? So I'm always pitching to my client and to my consultant, that, or sorry, to my employees, or to those functional to those people who wants to be a functional consultant, is if you don't understand a bit of an accounting terminology like a general ledger, then you can't really implement the system. I'm not an accountant, I'm not a CPA or certified public accountant, but again, when I do implementation before, I really did learn about the general ledger. And this is very important. You need to understand that the general ledger or the chart of accounts, you can search that in the search bar of Business Central, that this template, this Excel file that we want to upload is very important. It's very crucial to all of the implementation that we need to do. Okay, and the next is our subsidiaries. All right, so it's the bank, customer, vendors, fixed asset, and items. There's a lot of subsidiary ledger. Like I can say that a resource is a subsidiary ledger, right? But I won't be discussing that because it's gonna be eating the time of other presentation. And of course, my job here is to open this very lightly. So for me, it's very important that bank is a subsidiary ledger. Without this, we're gonna be posting everything on the GL, and you can do bank reconciliation later on. It's very important to know that. Customer as well. It's very important that this is your AR, this is your account receivable. So make sure that customer ledger or customer Excel file upload is complete and intact. Vendors are also super important in a quick implementation, since a lot of companies here in the Philippines, or a lot of company here in the Philippines, relies on your accounts payable. So technically, if we're trying to implement Business Central in a fast pace, we need to understand that vendor is really important. If your customer is into a startup phase, it's very important that you always convince them to record their expenses already, and you cannot do that without the vendors master file. Fixed asset, it's really like for me, level one is bank, customer, vendors, but fixed asset is secondary for me. But it's more of the items, so it depends. So the good thing about Business Central, and I think other ERP system doesn't have this. When you go to the item master data, or classification of an item, the good thing about Business Central is you can maintain the service, the non-inventariable, and the inventory, right? So before in Navision, we don't have the non-inventory, but as it evolves, as it upgrade, we fully understood that we really need something that can really record our office supplies, meaning not posting to the direct posting GL, but really recording those inventory level, but not treating that as inventory that has cost of goods sold, or COGS, right? But it's really like treating that as a direct expense, but at the same time we can monitor that. I mean, those kind of like things we need to understand if you want to really implement the Business Central properly in our clients, and that starts on the master data level. Okay, so for me, there is like an MVD, or the minimum viable data. So what is a minimum viable data? So minimum viable data for me is something that tomorrow, all right, tomorrow I want to start the implementation already. I need to operate. What are you gonna do? This is the problem, because Zero and QuickBooks, as I mentioned, this system are very easy to use, but they don't understand that it's really not complete in terms of warehousing, jobs, or jobs, right? If you're into nav or Business Central, jobs is our professional services project management module. This kind of streamlining the whole process of one organization. If you're gonna use a simple accounting system, then you cannot really cover that. But the problem and the dilemma is, it's always about this. Business Central is really or NAV. It's really hard to set up. Again, as I mentioned, it's not. The problem is how we define the master data. Because at the end of the day, if you want to operate tomorrow, if the owner wants to operate tomorrow, the owner needs something to start. And of course, I'm not talking about beginning balances, JVs, etc. But if an owner will understand the concept of the master data, then I think they can operate tomorrow already with the help of the partners like us, right? So for me, it's really important that you have the chart of accounts. Of course, this is the main thing: the vendors, the bank, the item, and the customer. If you have this master data, then I think I can operate tomorrow. Since fixed asset, it's not really that important because I need to really have an audit for all of my fixed assets. And again, Business Central can do that later on. But for me to operate tomorrow, I need this, in a way, four pillars of Business Central. Okay. So in terms of solutioning perspective, number one, of course, we just don't give that kind of, notion to our clients, but we need to listen first, then identify the pain points. And then, of course, persona and process gathering. I know Raz is very, inclined with, agile or scrum. So we're kind of changing the way we implement ERP today. We want it to be very agile. Not, of course, I mean, if you're, a functional consultant for the very long time or if you're practicing dynamics or in a way NAV, it's really sure step, it's really waterfall, but we want to revolutionize that in a way that we can really use an agile or a scrum approach for our clients. And technically, if you can shift to that, of course we can still streamline the process, but if we can shift to that, then technically we're really eliminating some of wasted days, or wasted Mondays, as we call that in the Business Central world or in the business application. What we want to do is to really revolutionize how we do the projects. That's why it's very important to understand the master data concept before we go to the advanced thing that we will be presenting on our track 1 and track 2 for this one. But I want you to understand that everything starts with master data, right? So for me, there are 4 steps to do it. Get revenue and expenses. When we say get revenue and expenses, analyze what is the revenue stream of your client, all right? Because it's not one size fits all. It can be something like, I don't need jobs management because I'm not doing professional service. I don't really need service management because I'm not a service company. I don't need assembly. I don't need manufacturing, etc. What is your stream? You need to ask your customer, what is your revenue stream? And if they say trade, I'm doing this distribution business, I get items from abroad, etc., etc., then you need to know that, because master data is very crucial. I mean, the workshop is very crucial. You need to understand first what is really the revenue stream and the expenses stream, or expenses structure of a particular customer. Then you go to master data. Master data is very it's very easy because we can just export it in our package, give that to customer, then later on upload it, scrub it, of course, then upload it, then we do go live. So folks, I just want you to be reminded that I really understand that it's very complicated to set up an ERP system, but there is really a solution on how to do this. That's why I'm really encouraging you to test the agile approach, the scrum approach, to really for us to to evolve in the industry. Because I saw Business Central implementation, a standard Business Central implementation that is really finishing 15 days, that is really finishing on its fifth day. So why some other consultant still sticking to the old ways of doing things? Because they don't really understand the concept of the master data, right? So for me, just if you're new to Business Central, it's very important to identify what are those master data. Sorry, I just want to check if you can see my screen now. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, we
Hello?
can.
All right. All right. So there is a purpose. All right. Let me go to this one. Sorry. There is a purpose why Microsoft put customer, vendors, item, back accounts, and chart of accounts. In fact, this is the MVD that I'm talking about. You have this master data, all right, that are really essential to to your customer. Sorry, this is my just my experimentation, but you're a consultant, this. So technically, there's a lot of ways, to really, in a way, fill up your master data. It can be a manual one. So a manual one is something like just going to my customer list and just pressing you and you know filling up these things. If you want to go further, some partners, of course, creating a template, or even customer that if they fill up something, that it will be automatically filled up, this mandatory thing, right? So this is very important. I mean, creating, like, let's say, powering for a customer. So technically, you're really into like creating your master data already. And the problem with other partners is they don't highlight this and just going to the upload itself, right? So this is a problem, because at the end of the day, um um customers needs to have in a way, an insight on how we set up things here in Business Central. So manual setting up or filling up of master data is very important to understand. Again, as I mentioned, this is not for advanced or long-term functional consultant or developer here in our audience. My goal here is for us to understand that it's easy now to create a master data or to fulfill master data in Business Central, right? So anything about vendors, items, etc., bank accounts, chart of accounts, etc., is now very easy for us to fulfill that. All right. Okay. So just creating a new chart of accounts, just pressing identifying this mandatory field, etc. You can already do that in Business Central. Okay. So, in a way, I mean, for those consultant that is new here, my rule of thumb is, if we're just creating, 5 to 10 customer, all right, or 5 to 10 vendors, or, chart of account that has, the basic asset, liabilities, income, and equity, etc., and expenses. If we're just talking about 50 lines, then don't be afraid to create that manually. And in fact, you can teach your customer to do it. All right, it's not a problem teaching them to do manual fill up of master data. Okay. um Next is, I want to highlight that, of course, there are many consultants here, all right, that you can do bulk upload, or what we call the implementation worksheet, or what we call the packages, right? So in a way, what I'm gonna do today, of course, I will not go to fixing an error, because time is very important for me. So I know going over the sessions, it's very good. The sessions are very good. But I want to highlight here in my presentation that um having this particular ability for us, for partners, for us to fast pace and implementation is very important. And in fact, if you're a functional consultant here, you know already how to do this. But for me, I've created a package already, and it's very foundational in principle what to import as a package, right? So I'll go to the packages. Okay. Then I want to import the package that I've created. All right. You know this already if you're a functional consultant, or if you're into Business Central or NAV. But based on my experience, the only table that they're asking, or the important table that you may want to explore, or even put effort on scrubbing that later on, are this table. Correct. So bear with me as I import this one. Anyways, well, Okay, there you go. All right, so let me just, sorry, let me just go to, anyway, sige. I will not finish this. I'm gonna be more explaining the table that I was trying to import. So payment terms is very important. So when I created this kind of package, I'm not thinking of the technical configuration or setup. I was thinking of, if I'm the owner, if I'm the entrepreneur or the owner of a business, um, what is really the important part of the master data, meaning if I'm the customer, is payment terms is very important to me, is country and region, the GL account, the customer, the vendor posting group. By the way, the posting group will be discussed on next session, so don't worry about that. I'm not gonna highlight that today. The number series, the BAT business posting group, the product posting group, etc. The dimension is very important. This master data, or the tables that I have here, is very crucial to our implementation, because if I'm an owner, what I need to see, what I need to record is these things, right? Of course, if you're into, your client is into professional services, you want to use jobs, you might want to include, um, um, resources here. You might want to include, of course, in terms of manufacturing, BOM here, or bill of materials, or work centers here. But in the fastest implementation that I'm talking about is really like from no system to business central. It's really important to talk about this master data for us to be able to really say that, okay, tomorrow I can go live already. Tomorrow I can really listen to my customer. Tomorrow I can just, point out what needs to really be done in terms of, starting the implementation. I know there's a lot of things that we need to do for us to be able to implement Business Central carefully. But for me, it's a matter of, I mean, for the starter of this event, I want us to really, reflect on the very basic part of our implementation, which is master data. Sometimes the investment or the exploration, it's really on the advanced part, which is adding features, adding modules. But did we like create, or did we really analyze, or did we really in a way reflect that master data is very important to our implementation from ground up, even if you're all functional consultant, or if you're new, or even if you're a developer. Understanding the principle of master data is very important. That's why when Russ invited me to pick a topic, I go here, because the backbone of the implementation is always about going back to the basic and going back to the master data. I think I won't waste the time of, I won't waste your time, and I'll give the floor to other speakers, and I'm gonna be organizing some speakers tomorrow. But yeah, so if you want to follow me in Twitter, or go to LinkedIn, you can do that. But the key takeaway for tonight is go back to the basic, understand the master data, and I think the implementation will be okay. So thank you, and good night here in the Philippines, and good morning around the world. Thank you. Russ? Hello.
Thanks, Paul. That was a great job. I'm just trying to see here.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm not quite sure where Raz is, but I figured I would just jump in to say, I guess good morning, good night, wherever anyone is hailing from today, and just say that was a great job. I definitely agree that the master data or the chart of accounts, right, is central to getting that uploaded quickly, especially with that config pack. I think speed is key. So nice to point that out.
Hi, thanks again, Paul. So, Paul, since we have another 20 minutes until the next session, there are some questions some people are asking. One question is asking the GL table needs to be moved out of the company schema on SQL Server. And then Sridharan is asking, how about the common shared vendor?
Okay. So are we talking about, like, let's say for example you're in the multiple company settings, then when you say common shared vendor, is it like a company sharing it or something like that? Sorry, I want to further understand the question.
Ah, right. So Ilyas has his hand up. So let's unmute Ilyas. And whilst we unmute you, Ilyas, if you could please type your questions in the chat, that would be really helpful. Okay, you should be unmuted now. Hello, Ilyas.
Hello, Elias. Anyway, Ras, I don't know if this is the right answer, or I'm just speculating, but he means that the same vendors are in the same many companies. Okay, in the same environment. Okay, all right. Let me answer this one. In fact, if you're an MVP, right? So
Hi, Connor.
there are
Can you
there
hear
are
me?
like go Elias. Sorry, go Elias. You're unmuted.
Thank you for everything. Uh, the question is pretty straightforward. Is asking how to make the GL table, say as the vendor, it could be the customer, available for all companies. Say I've got Acme as the first company. It has its own GL account, chart of accounts. I want the same chart of accounts to be available for all companies.
Okay. So the fact is, of course, you can do multiple companies in Business Central check, right? Sharing a chart of accounts, it's up on in terms of implementation on how you're gonna, upload chart of accounts per customer. This is what we're lagging, or what we're lacking in Business Central or NEV, because FNO has that, or AX has that, but in Business Central we can't really do master data center, central master data. But yes, Mary said it, that ISV, of course it's not standard that you can have that ISB in place. Sorry, I can't promote any ISB today, but there's a lot of ISB that does that having this shared master data in terms of customer, even GL, etc. But in terms of consolidation, company consolidation, Business Central can able to do that. But in terms of the standard functionality of sharing a master data, I think we don't have it now. So this is what I did. So when there's a discussion on the MVP or in the product group, I always think about of something like, if FNO can do that, why Business Central cannot do that, right? So I raised that concern already, since I want to really have it as a standard Business Central, but at FNO it's really standard for them to have a centralized master data for all of the entities or companies. So that's my answer. So right now we don't have a standard functionality to do that, but as Mary answered, there's a lot of work around to do it, like installing an add-on or an add-in, doing Power Automate, etc., or having like an Excel online that has all of the shared master data, then you know um, 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 using Power Automate to validate those master data. Okay, did I answer the question right? So technically, we don't have that standard feature yet in Business Central, like a shared master data.
Awesome, Paul. Thank you so much for clarifying that. I'm sure many of the attendees often struggle with that particular issue. So thanks again for the great question. So let's take a look. Who's next? By the way, please raise your hand if you do have a question. We have only 10 minutes left for Q&A. So if you do have a question, then please make sure you raise your hand or mention it in the chat. Oh, and there you go. So Mary's comment there. So she says she has a on her to-do list to create some kind of flow with Power Automate to create the account to subsequent accounts when one account is added. So that's interesting, right? So that's the art of the possible when you combine Business Central with the Power Platform. It makes that. I mean, you mentioned there, Paul, ISV. Typically, back in the day, Nav World and now Business Central, a lot of development would have to be done, right? So it's interesting that Mary's mentioned, that there's other alternative low-code ways of achieving a similar type of result, which is exactly what we want to do and help enable the attendees to be able to do, because many of you here are not developers. Many of you are scared to go in and start hacking away at Business Central. We all have heard of the nightmares around Nav and the old days of customizations and development. So I think Mary's point is really cool as well. What are your thoughts on that, Paul?
Yeah, I think Power Platform is very helpful. I mean, when we pitch Business Central to our clients, it's always about, the power of the Dataverse or the common data service, connecting with these tools that we have already, or Microsoft has already, put in terms of, connecting this ecosystem of business applications. And the Power Automate is very essential to Business Central for us to have a capabilities, not customizing or adding, as we call the extensions nowadays. But extending it via Power Platform is very, very powerful for us to, extend. For example, like what Ilyas is telling us, like I just need to create a table in Dataverse, then as a central repository for all of my central master file, then use Power Automate to do that. So it's very flexible now that we have Power Automate in place. So not distracting the of course when we hear about extensions from 2017, we're very happy in the community. But the good thing about having this Power Platform in place is really not only the developers but citizen developers are now able we're now able to extend some functionalities of Business Central. But of course, I think you will agree with me that it's too early in the Business Central world to really say that we're super connected with Dataverse, right? So I understood that point, and I think we're growing on that kind of level like the FNO.
Great point, Paul. Great point. So Rehan's asking, hi, Paul. Regarding master table, you have explained well, but can you tell me more about the supplementary table, where we can pull the data in quick and an easy way? Sorry, Paul, you seem to be muted.
In terms of doing supplementary table, or there's really a lot of ways to to work around that. Or I mean, if I'm gonna use partner way of doing things, sometimes they're gonna create one dummy company, all right, for a consolidation or for the master data, right? Then other supplementary tables is of course on the child companies that they want to create, and funneling that up to the master data, or to the end company, or to the consolidation company that they want to have. So in a way, creating like a dummy company is also very important if you want to have that kind of model that we're asking.
Fantastic. So there is a question by Ryu-san, Cowboy-san. Oh, so joining us
Yeah,
from
yeah. Ryu, how are you, bro? The
let's
famous
get
MC.
Ryu on the line. Let's get Ryu guys.
Yeah, I'm
International
fine.
party
Thank you very
happy.
much. So I posted one very simple questions to Philippines because I have done several projects in Philippines. Always, the BIR gonna be the keys. So this is the only countries we cannot determine the go live date. So very dangerous. So is there any secret way to control this?
Oh, well, Ryu, I'm so
Maybe
flattered
you
that
can explain about what's the BIR special in Philippines to
correct.
everybody join here.
All right. So, uh, in fact, asking, Ryu asking question to me, I'm very, I'm very flattered about it. Ryu is been, very a very important figure in the Business Central or NAV world. I'm very, flattered to answer his question. All right, let me just explain what is a BIR. So BIR, what is the BIR? BIR is like our Bureau of Internal Revenue in the Philippines. And in fact, if you will notice, there's no localization that was created by Microsoft or even other partners for us to be able to comply with this. So, Ryu, we have what we call the CAS rule or the computerized accounting system, right, in the Philippines. So, the problem here is you cannot really operate an ERP system or like a QuickBooks or a Zero if you don't have a permit to operate. Meaning when they say to operate with an automated system, it's really like printing everything into or from Business Central or any other like SAP, etc. So in a way, they're gonna reset your invoice number, your number series, all right? And if you want to use computerized accounting system, every format, every report needs to be approved by BIR. The problem is this: partner cannot dictate that phase. All right. It's really the customer who needs to apply to our BIR, and the partner will depend or will defend that particular presentation for them to be able to be accredited. So that's the dilemma. You can't really define the go live since partners doesn't have a full control. It's really the customer who's doing that. So if you're asking about the secret, it's really applying earlier. I
Right.
mean,
So always
yeah.
the Philippine project, I have a program BIR, and I always stop at the end of the UAT. So normally after the training and the UAT, we will prepare for the go live, the final the master data and the opening balance, but I always stopped. So I think that everybody has to know outside of Philippines about this and rely on the local partner like Paul. And
So
also, I remember that there's some documentations, business document. So writing the numeral is stronger than the figure itself, right? That's also Philippine. The localizations. I think it's better to know by everybody here is to gain the another country's localization knowledge.
yes,
Thank you very
I
much for
agree.
your advice.
I agree. It's not really about all technical, development of the localization, but also, really and identifying the rule per country. Because you're in the Philippines, Rio is really correct. I mean, there's really a policy here that we cannot break, and even if the partners want to finish it earlier, even if you're in the UAT or in a go live stage, if BIR will not approve it, maybe some cases of like the color is red rather than blue, something like that, or not showing the VAT on the forms that was customized, then you're gonna have like a 1 month waiting before they can say that okay, your invoice is approved, your purchase invoice is approved, etc.
Thank you very much. Thank
And
you.
thank you, Ryu Cowboy-san. Really great to have you online today. You are a big celebrity in the community and you're always fun. I remember meeting you not long ago. So we hope to see you in Tokyo soon.
I hope so. And any questions, then I will try to support Paul or other, Asian guys from my
Much
side.
appreciated. Much appreciated. Great to have a legend, Ryu, online today. And to follow up on another light-hearted question, Paul, this is one of the last ones, I promise. It's by Srinivasan. He's asking, hi, Paul. Can you suggest some strategies for me moving from Nav to Business Central? My client is a cannabis manufacturing company with multiple units and acquiring more.
All right, so I have to answer for that. So number one, in terms of commercial, as long as they into rep or B rep as they call it. So Microsoft has a promo today. I'm not promoting it, but they can get I think I really I think it's 30 to 40% discount moving on Business Central SaaS or yeah, it's on SaaS. Then migration, I think there is someone in this event, Ras, if I'm not mistaken, that really gonna be discussing the whole migration process. But in terms of migration, there's a lot of tools to use. Like I don't promote Kingsway Soft, but I think it's very natural for us partners to go there because it's very efficient. It's very supporting the whole ecosystem, and it's running on the OData level. But for me to, I mean, master data is very important again. In terms of migrating, in terms of transactional, if you really want to migrate end-to-end transaction, not really going to beginning balances type of things, you know that if you're a functional consultant, it's gonna be painful if you're not gonna use tools, if you're gonna use just Excel or packages to do that. But it's very important to use ETL because the structure, I think Ryu can also confirm, and other business central consultant can confirm on this. There's not really like a big changes in terms of table structure, but it's more of like really in a way examining the customization, if there's additional table that was added on Business Central, and how are you gonna develop that on on the on sorry, there's a lot of table that was developed in NAV, in NAV 2018 2016, and moving to Business Central. Of course, you need to identify, and you need to also prepare that Business Central is not anymore like NAV, that if we want to customize something, we need to go to extension. So those kind of things needs to be really planned out. And the tip is really planned out, count the customization that you need. But I think we're gonna be discussing that on our later, um, 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 in a way, the track that we have in this Business Central Bootcamp. So make sure to watch that kind of to watch that talk.
That is correct, Paul. We do have a whole session, deep dive session, going through upgrade path. So make sure you join us for that. You can catch the time for that session. We'll share the agenda again shortly. So yes, excellent. Okay, so any other questions? It's almost bedtime for Paul. Paul has stayed up late, so let's see if there's one final question for Paul. Here we go. So Srinivasan is saying, thanks, Paul, for answering. I'm fully committed to the next couple of days. Great. So yes, okay. So I don't believe there are any other questions for you. So Paul, do you have any final words to share with the community? Any announcements?
Yeah. Thank you, Ras. Thank you for those, staying here and really supporting the community. As we, I mean, Ryu knows this, Ras knows this, Mary also knows this, and all of you guys that are supporting community. The reason why NAV is still here or translated or transition to Business Central is we're very lucky that community is very supportive to this kind of transition. And in fact, I think number one community supported application is Business Center or NAV. There's no other Microsoft product that is really, in terms of business application, that's really like this, right? So let's keep supporting the community, and I think there's a lot of submission in terms of debugging. I'm seeing some MVP or product group conversation about debugging something, and I want you to understand, guys, that Business Central is still growing, not and we're still into in a way phases that phase that we're really integrating that in the whole ecosystem, right? So I think I'm still have this notion that Business Central is still the open source product of Microsoft in terms of ERP. Thank you.
That's a very good point to mention, Paul. That a lot of the ERP SaaS products out there, when it comes to understanding the development framework, is interesting how Business Central, often it's seen as a bit more complicated, but that's because it's highly extendable, and it's a great opportunity to get involved in the product itself. So it's a very interesting point you've mentioned there, Paul. In fact, one of the feedback we've been getting from a lot of the attendees is they're just a bit confused as to why Business Central isn't really listed amongst the Sages and the Zeros. And I guess you kind of touched upon that, really, because really it's because of the development framework behind Business Central, right?
Right. So, in a way, just to add up to Ras statement. So the problem with Business Central, if you can see, Business Central is very cheap in terms of licenses, like $70 per user per month. No minimum, no maximum. Like FNO to have 20 licenses, etc. Just purchasing $70, one user per month, then I'm good. I can really use Business Central. The problem is also relies on partners, since again, as Ras mentioned, we have very complex framework to do in terms of our development. So that's why master data presentation and other things that's going to be discussed here, to really put emphasis on the standard functionalities of Business Central, comparing that to NetSuite or any other application that is on SaaS already. We're very complete. We have the very sophisticated in a way system that is very cheap in the market right now. So yeah, Ras, you're very correct.
Fantastic. So, Paul, thank you once again for joining us such a late time in the Philippines. Please share your contact details so people can keep in contact with you. Although you will be with us next tomorrow, you will be hosting the functional track. Yes, you'll be hosting the functional track tomorrow, I believe.
Yeah. So I'll be hosting the functional track. So it's very very super studded event, and I'm really Ras, when we're doing these things, we really are not expecting the superstar will really have these topics. So I would really ask for community to really join us tomorrow. There's also a development topic or developer track for this one. And you can follow me in LinkedIn. I'm active in LinkedIn, and Twitter is not that so, but LinkedIn it's my main social media, in Facebook. So yeah, I'm good, Ras. Thank you.
Thank you once again.